Whether it's the quiet grief of a spouse battling cancer or the shock of global atrocities, suffering is a reality we all face. We find the evidence of evil grounded in historical reality, leaving a physical footprint across our timeline. The tangible, devastating consequences of this objective human evil leave permanent scars on our world. Because undeniable evil is real, we have to ask how these horrors can coexist with a loving God. Skeptics often point to a classic philosophical tension. They argue that if God is all-powerful, he can stop evil, and if he is all good, he would want to stop it. This chart maps out that logic. You take an omnipotent God and an omnibenevolent God, introduce the reality that evil exists, and follow the arrows to the conclusion that this God must not exist. But this equation assumes that God cannot have morally sufficient reasons for allowing temporary suffering. If it is even possible that a good God has a purpose for pain that we simply cannot see from our limited perspective, then the logical contradiction disappears. The skeptic's conclusion requires knowing every reason God might have, an impossible burden of proof. Of course, winning a philosophical debate doesn't heal a grieving heart. Knowing the logic holds up doesn't explain our personal pain when tragedy strikes. While logic removes the intellectual barrier to belief, true comfort requires us to examine the actual character of the God who permits our suffering. Modern culture often portrays God as a passive, agreeable figure who simply ignores sin. But the God of the Bible is the active standard of perfect justice and infinite mercy. He is not the author of evil, but he does sovereignly permit it, holding even our darkest moments within a greater redemptive purpose. We need both of these attributes. A God without justice could never defeat evil, and a God without mercy would have to destroy us alongside it. God deals with evil by entering the world himself, through a specific mechanism called penal substitutionary atonement. Critics sometimes call this cosmic child abuse, imagining an angry father punishing an unwilling son. But that ignores the perfect unity of the Trinity. The Father plans our redemption, and the Son willingly offers himself as the sacrifice. Jesus is never a passive victim in this process. This diagram shows the transaction. The Bible describes our sin as a legal certificate of debt. Christ takes that ledger and bears the penalty for our evil to satisfy justice, while simultaneously extending infinite mercy to us. This changes the posture of the grieving. God is no longer a distant observer. He is a participant who entered our broken world and experienced pain, grief, and death firsthand. The cross proves that God is not indifferent to our pain, and because he suffered, he can be trusted with our deepest grief. When we find ourselves in the middle of our own grief, we rarely get to know the specific why behind our suffering. But we can find rest without knowing those specific reasons, provided we know the character of the God who holds them. In a secular worldview, suffering is blind, meaningless tragedy. There is no ultimate purpose. Trusting God's sovereign plan changes how we grieve. We gain the assurance that our suffering is never arbitrary and is held firmly within a guaranteed redemptive purpose. You might wonder why ultimate justice is delayed. God's patience right now is an act of grace, giving humanity time to turn to him before time runs out. Future judgment and the reality of hell are the absolute guarantee that evil will be permanently defeated and dealt with. The persistence of evil demonstrates our desperate need for an intervention only God can provide. The call is straightforward. Change your mind, turn away from human autonomy, and follow the one true God. Evil is a temporal reality today, but trusting in God's perfect justice and mercy guarantees a future where every tear is wiped away and peace is permanent.